Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo!
Hello. Before this episode officially begins, I needed to let you know that on Saturday, June 10th, I am hosting a body image healing workshop here at my home in Lower Westchester, New York. If you are in the area, or if you want to travel to New York for a fun weekend and a very intense, healing, emotionally, spiritual, bonding, supportive day to get to the root of why you struggle to see yourself as valuable when you look in the mirror and why you feel the need to constantly be changing the way that you look in order to be worthy of love and acceptance, and you finally want to feel good about yourself, what you see, how you feel, everything about your body. You want to learn how to appreciate it, how to treat it with kindness and care, and just value it for the incredible thing that it actually is. And if you're struggling to do that because of maybe a history of disordered eating, or a history of body shaming, whether you were made fun of as a kid or you just live in this world where everything is constantly being filtered and constantly shown as what perceives to be as quote unquote beautiful, and you just don't feel like you fit in, you need to be there for this workshop. Like, you absolutely need to be there. Now, because we're only having a select amount of people and because it's at my home, and I really want to make sure that it is an intimate space, a safe space where you can share and process, I am requiring that we just have a quick call beforehand just to make sure that it is a good fit for everybody that's going to be in the room. So what I want you to do is text the words body confidence to 914-219-6446. Again, text body confidence to 914-219-6446 if you are interested in finding out more details about the Body Image Healing Workshop, to answer any questions you have, and we will also likely set up a call. So if you're interested in learning more about the Body Image Healing Workshop, text Body Confidence to 914-219-6446. I hope to connect with you soon. Now, enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am beyond excited, like seriously, the most excited I probably have ever been for a guest, because, and honestly, I've talked about this person before, just referencing her because of how brilliant she is and how incredible she is. And it's my best friend, Melanie Bomer, which is not Melanie Bomer anymore. For 2 or 3 years now.
It's okay. It's been a weird time.
She is now married, which is also one of my good friends, thank God. But I knew Melanie way back in the day. We went to college together. We studied to become registered dietitians together. We did the same internship together, and we've been best friends ever since. And Melanie, I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but I just want you guys to know that this woman, I mean, she's brilliant, but her heart is bigger than anyone on the entire planet. And I think that's why she's so successful at what she does, because not only does she have the knowledge, but she has the ability to connect and be real, raw, and honest and authentic. And hopefully you guys know by listening to me that I value those things very much. So there's no shock that we're best friends, because she's just a good human overall, and you're going to learn so much from her. If you are pregnant, were pregnant, or trying to get pregnant, and you have any sort of, thoughts around your body image, your food, your relationship to exercise, especially if you consider yourself an athlete or a prior athlete, just buckle up, because you're going to learn a ton. So without further ado, Melanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Tone. Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Sulaver. I am also a registered dietitian and a certified sports nutritionist. So my wheelhouse of focus, if you will, is the crossroads between women's health and performance nutrition. So kind of what I do at this point in time, maybe I'll talk about that first, and then how I got there. I am a speaker, a counselor, a coach. I work predominantly with active women. Sometimes they identify as athletes, sometimes they don't, but you could be the person who's running half marathons on a regular basis. So not so casual, or taking group fitness classes 3-4 times a week. Maybe you're working with a personal trainer or taking some other sort of online class. You are active. And essentially, I work with women on their relationship to food, their relationship to their body throughout the course of their fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum journey. A lot of the people I've worked with for a duration of time, we've addressed amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea, and then also kind of like gone through that process. So the people I work with in a one-on-one capacity are become long-term clients and friends, and it is awesome to be able to hold space for people throughout this time. How I got here. Well, I am also a mother. I have an 18-month-old named Tiberius.
He's the cutest kid on the planet. I'm a little bit biased because I'm basically his aunt, but
you are his aunt Tone. Oh my gosh. And, I think the genesis of all of this and becoming a dietitian is I was an athlete growing up. I played soccer throughout my earlier years, and also for a year in college. I was an athlete with an undiagnosed eating disorder. I was dismissed by every doctor and dietitian, healthcare practitioner. Wasn't picked up. I was also a dietetic student, so I could talk my way out of most things, and struggled with that on my own for years. And so much of my mission in starting out as a dietitian was like heavy duty working through disordered eating. Again, like the amenorrhea, how do we work on our relationships to food, to our body, and prevent this from happening, work through the shame and whatnot. Enter motherhood and pregnancy, where it is expected that your body's going to change. And full transparency, I did a lot of my own heavy duty work in therapy before getting pregnant, knowing there were things I still had to work through. Otherwise, that would be hard for me. So highly recommend that. And as I went through my own pregnancy journey and postpartum, I realized there is just no support. There is none. Forget about nutrition recommendations. You can look online. They're very basic and general and overarching, which take out of context the individual human being. They're also very safe in terms of a public health recommendation. And so there's a lot of things that we can eat throughout pregnancy and postpartum while you're breastfeeding that would be really beneficial to the mother and also to the baby that you might not find on any of those lists because they require a little bit more of an explanation on how to have them, context and whatnot. So I found myself going through this and being like, this is where I need to be. This is where my energy needs to go. The last 10 years, because Tone, can you believe we're going to be dietitians for 10 years this
I know. It's wild.
Yeah. I've said it several times this year. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I literally yesterday I said, I've been a dietitian for 10 years. What?
Which is beautiful because I know we love it as much as we do. And I feel like every experience, both clinically and through my profession, be it the education or continuing education and lived experience, has brought me here to this full drive of working with this population. And it's incredible. Like I said, just to be part of the journey and watch the transition and watch people's eyes open as they recognize they can step into motherhood and also maintain their own identifiers, particularly as an athlete at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's such a pivotal moment in somebody's life and such a great opportunity to actually, like, you have 9 months of pregnancy where you can prepare for a different future. And, a lot of women, and I'm sure you get the same thing, they'll come to us because they know they want to try to get pregnant. And a lot of times they'll say things like, I want to lose weight before I get pregnant. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about, maybe let's focus on healthier habits, a healthier relationship with food, so that you can be that positive role model for your kids. But then more importantly, because you owe it to yourself and you have an opportunity now to do it. So I'm curious, with your client base, do most people come to you like before getting pregnant because they want similar things, or do they usually work with you during pregnant or postpartum?
I have a mix of both, and I'm both being prior to pregnancy and actual pregnancy. So I have them through postpartum. I would love to, if people aren't aware that there is someone who can support them in that postpartum period, get people there just if they didn't realize it was never spoken to them about, because as mentioned with nutrition, like you go to your OB or your midwife, no one even acknowledges like, hey, a dietitian would be a really essential part to your team. That's not even a discussion. So for me, most of the people I end up getting are earlier in that piece where they're having a hard time getting pregnant. And so in doing that, they're looking for every possible answer, nutrition being one of them. And so they find their way to me. In the context of pregnancy, no different, especially in the first trimester. That's where a lot of aversion takes place, if you will, and we tend to crave and desire and not want specific things. And so for women who have a challenging food relationship and things that maybe weren't addressed prior to pregnancy, you have a very specific group of foods that you feel comfortable eating. And now you're in this period where your body says, I don't want broccoli and I can't eat chicken. I just need the mac and cheese. Like, give me the mac and cheese. And you're wrestling with yourself because you're like, I can't eat mac and cheese. Like, that's not good for me. And it's going to make me gain, like the cascade starts. And so I catch them in those two places, or they find me in those two places. And we're in it pretty aggressively trying to navigate safe exposure and comfortable exposure in terms of exposure exercise to foods and working through and realizing it's okay and you can tolerate it and why we need it and how all of that is valid. So more on the earlier end. But what's hard with the postpartum window, and again, why I would love to, if possible, catch people there even beforehand, is just because you give birth, however that happens for you, and then you don't see a doctor for 6 weeks. So there's this gap of time that is lonely and challenging and like physically and emotionally exhausting. And you're just left to do it. And then you go to this appointment in 6 weeks. And I have people who don't even get, their doctor doesn't even check. They might have their incision checked if they had a C-section, but I have people who, if they had no you might tear when you give birth vaginally. I have women who, if they didn't tear, like they don't even check them. And it's just wild. And then you're just kind of like left to figure it out. So definitely, if you can, you deserve support through all of that. And there are people like me trying to fill those gaps that right now, that support. You have to know that you need it, or you have to know where to look to find it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we go to postpartum, I kind of do want to go back to when like someone is pregnant and just like dealing with their body changing, dealing with gaining weight. Maybe they're gaining more than they're quote unquote supposed to or should be. I feel like there's so much information out there that I feel like it's like you get pregnant and like the whole mom guilt thing becomes very understood. It's like automatically feel guilty about everything because you could be like someone who is under fueling unintentionally because you're so nauseous that you literally can't tolerate anything. Mm-hmm. Or you could be under fueling when you're pregnant because you're afraid of gaining weight. And those, either way, it's like, so how do you help somebody navigate like feeling like there's all of these rules when they come from probably putting their own rules on themselves? Now they have the rules of what they can and cannot eat while pregnant. Like, how do you help someone navigate like what is safe and what's not safe and what's okay and what's not okay and all those things?
So one of the first things that I do with them is go through like a nutrition knowledge assessment, right? Like, what do you think you can have, or what is your understanding of like the list of foods that is safe in the context of pregnancy and the list of foods that is not? Sushi being a big one, right? So many people think they can have sushi or lunch meat. You can have both of those things. Now, so going through what they're thinking and where they got that information from, and then talking through, the factual evidence-based information that says, no, we can do this, and here's what is appropriate in house. So sushi, for example. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting sushi from the grocery store where it's been sitting there for a while and there's a higher risk for foodborne illness. So many of these public health recommendations that are like very overarching are based on the fact that we want to prevent foodborne illness. Mm-hmm. So you are more likely to get foodborne illness from the chopped salad that somebody made for you with their bare hands, or like the pineapple that somebody cut with their own hands. Like, get the regular pineapple and cut it yourself. If you can take the other hands away, we are less likely to get foodborne illness. So there's things around that requires education. As it relates to some of the body dysmorphia or concern regarding weight and body changing, my sessions are very talk therapy style. And so what I have them do is go through and list, like, what are the thought processes that are coming up for you here? What does that negative self-talk sound like? What are the one-liners that are being discussed and coming up in your head that are telling you, don't eat that, or do eat that, or you shouldn't eat that? So calling out your should statements. And what we end up doing is working through them one at a time with something that makes that null and void. So utilizing your rational mind, as I would call it, versus your disordered eating mind, or what is irrational, or when we talk through it, you can recognize this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't serve me. So we work through kind of rationally making decisions that serve us and counteracting that negative self-talk. Those are the two major ways. As it relates to weight, I feel like it's almost like a BMI conversation in the context of like the charts at the OB office. And if your BMI is this, here's your range. And it's so harmful. You can do a blind weight. Like if you're OB or, again, midwife, someone insists on weighing you, you can do a blind weight is one way to do it. I promise you that there are many of other ways for your physician and even us in our time together to identify if something is wrong. Your weight does not have to be part of that equation at all. So if that is more triggering than not, you don't need to know it. If they really need to have it, like I said, you can ask them for a blind weight. They'll stand you backwards so you don't see it. They'll take it and you walk off. And my ask is you let them know every time you go in, because potentially if someone different comes in, they might show you the chart or not have you turn around. So we just want to eliminate any of the things that might be potentially triggering for you. And I have an example. There's someone I'm working with now who is pregnant and is still working through an eating disorder that they've had for many years. And this person is also a physician. And so like they know where the weight is on a chart, so they can tell them like, cover this up, because otherwise, like, I don't want to see it. You can ask for that for your care. But the other thing to acknowledge with weight is, and this is the beauty, if you know you can work on this before pregnancy, is your body is going to change. Our bodies are going to change.
Accepting it.
Yeah. So there has to be a level of acceptance. And so that's where I go back to those narratives and we start to work through the narratives. I feel like the other harmful piece in the context of pregnancy is like, well, you don't need to gain any weight in the first trimester. So if you do, like, you're probably gaining too much weight. And I gained a couple pounds in my first trimester. I know plenty of women who have. I also know a number of women who haven't. Like, does that mean you're going to gain too much? Does that mean you're going to have gestational diabetes because of that? No. And your weight is going to fluctuate week to week. You might have a week you gain 2 pounds. You might have a week you gain no pounds. It's going to change. Your water, the amount of water you're holding, your fluid is increasing so much because of your blood volume. There's so much happening where weight is not going to be a helpful marker here. Like in most cases.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something that we work on letting go of and utilizing other metrics for performance or for your health and what makes you feel good. And we side table that one.
Yeah, for sure. So like, how common do you see that now someone's pregnant, maybe their physical activity is less than what they're used to. And now as a result, they think they need to eat significantly less. and they end up like under fueling. How common is that? And what are some of the negative consequences to doing that?
Sure. So it's almost too common. And I see it one way or another. Either their exercise decreases or they're trying to do more. Or, if this is someone who's running 3-4 days a week, and a lot of runners will like track their mileage by like a 40-mile week, a 30-mile week, a 60-mile week. Like maybe there's someone who averaged like a 50-mile week and now they drop to 30. Now they're trying to compensate by walking 7 miles a day, which is also not the answer. Honestly, as we're working through this and as the pregnant person, you recognize pretty quickly one of the things I have you tune into is the fatigue, because it's such a clear barometer for your output. So in the context of exercise, do certain exercises give you energy or do they completely wipe you out? And then you're done by 5. You are done by 5 o'clock. Like you are tapping out because you're so exhausted. So tuning into what actually makes you feel good there. In the context of like fueling specifically and lower energy availability, the conversation is you need to eat. Said with so much love and compassion, and that's why we work through it, like the negative self-talk surrounding it. In your first trimester, again, just leaning into that one because that tends to be the higher carbohydrate preference for most people. The rice, the pasta, the bread, like very simple. That's when your aversions tend to be in most cases, not necessarily for everybody, but in most cases, like most aggressive. And normalizing that as an expectation versus the expectation that you're going to keep eating a salad with grilled chicken and and lots of veggies, or 3 of your plates will be half a serving, half a plate of veggies, and like it's not.
Yeah, it's so hard because it's like you hear all these recommendations of like certain vitamins and minerals that your body needs, and how balanced nutrition is incredibly important during when you're pregnant and always, and blah blah blah. But then it's like, but then you have these aversions, and then you can't eat it, and then you have your brain telling you shouldn't eat. It's just like, feel like it's such a lose-lose. We know there's ways to make people feel more empowered to make it a win, but like coming from like, just on the other end of what our clients are dealing with prior, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And there's definitely like a fear factor to it. I mean, I have, ironically, I'll show it because this gets people to see, Lily Nichols has a great book called Real Food for Pregnancy. She's a CDE, so she's a certified diabetes educator as well as a dietitian. And her first book was specific to gestational diabetes. That book is phenomenal, but I caution you because if you look at her food recommendations, again, they're whole food recommendations. And so there's not a lot in the way of crackers and bread and rice. And so if someone just reads that on their own, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't eat any of this.
Yeah.
So if you know that is something that would trigger you as an individual, don't get that book and talk to us, because then we can work you through, okay, what is a realistic expectation? And you are not harming your body and you are not harming your baby. And yes, you are going to gain more fat mass because your body needs that to support your hormones and this little life that you're growing. And then on the backside, if you want to have a positive experience nursing, those fat stores are also what is supporting your ability to lactate. So physiologically, like this is by design that you're gaining weight, that, the goal from the exercise standpoint on my end is like, can you maintain your muscle mass? Don't expect to be building lean body mass as you go through this process. That is an unrealistic expectation. And it's one of the ways we set women up to fail, particularly when I feel like I'm jumping ahead in our discussion, but you talk about like bounce back culture on the backside. But
no, that's literally where I was going to go next. So, because that is where I want to go, because it's like our entire lives, I'm speaking generally, but I know 99.9% of the people listening can relate to this. Our entire lives, we try to lose weight. Our entire lives, we're trying to lose weight. We get pregnant and we're not trying to gain too much weight. And the second that we get our baby, it's like we're back to trying to lose weight. But then a lot of people are lactating and they're trying to support the breast to be able to produce enough milk to breastfeed. and but they're also actively trying to lose weight. And I just need you to talk about that because it just seems like so counterproductive. And yeah, so I'm glad you're bringing about bounce back culture because it's brutal and it needs to die.
Yeah, I mean, there are hashtags that are like fit pregnancy and like just like what the and
the priority is not fitness. Correct. When your priority is growing a healthy baby. Fitness can be a part of that because I know, and you like everyone has a different level of what they do and want to do and choose to do, but like that is not the priority. And like the priority after you have the baby is to now take care of the baby
and yourself.
It's not about trying to like get back into a bikini.
No, and friends, there's so much going on. I mean, hormonally,
there's so many judgments
are
so ridiculous. It needs to stop. The judgments of the people feel like shameful. I worked with a client who was postpartum maybe 2 years ago, and she felt shame just showing up to a bar bat mitzvah for like the first time, like since the pandemic, since having a baby, being like, at that point, I think she was like 6 months out and she's like, I should be thinner. And it's just so wild to think about like, and the only reason why she felt that way is because of other people knowing they were going to make comments because like the friend or the sister or whatever didn't even look like she had a baby, like, even though she did, like, it's wild.
And they're not compliments. And part of that is, I know you do this as well in terms of your work, and mine is as expressed, like there's a lot of setting boundaries and knowing your language. And there are times where we need to be firmer with people in our circle and outside of our circle in pregnancy and postpartum. It's like people touching your belly. Like people don't automatically have a right to touch your belly just because you're pregnant. Like that is BS. Permission to like come close to you, let alone put their hands on your body. So there's a lot of boundary setting discussion that goes on that prepares also for postpartum where for sure there's the nutrition and low energy availability piece. And from my lens and given like the population of women that I work with being like active individuals or like me, like someone who's used to being active, like you are going to have a period of rest. You need a period of rest. It's sometimes birth is compared to a marathon, and I hate it viscerally because it is not a marathon. It is.
Elaborate on that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Like giving their, I'll have to find one of the articles and share it with you. Yeah. Like the timing and intensity and output, like having a baby giving birth is like a marathon. They're two very different experiences. And I have done both of them. Marathon requires specific training and eating and all these things, depending on what your goals for that race are, like to finish it as efficiently, fast, and like healthy as possible, or just to finish it.
Yeah.
Birth is no different. Like there's women who want to go into birth without any medication support. And like, that is also like it's an endurance event, but it's not a marathon. Birth is primal and challenging and uncomfortable and beautiful and magical and wild all at the same time. And it requires all of you. So,
and unpredictable, like a marathon, slightly unpredictable, but at least you really do. The path is the same start to finish in regards to like you're going in this direction and this direction. Mapped out for you. Yeah. Like pregnancy is different for everyone, everybody, and every different child too. Like I know women who their first pregnancy was brutal. Their second pregnancy was a breeze. Their third pregnancy was like, what the hell was that? I've never even heard of that before. Like they're all over the place.
Yeah. So perfect. That was a perfect entry point. Like one of the things that I have people do is, what are your expectations? You'll notice a theme with my coaching, but like, what are your expectations for pregnancy? What are your expectations for birth? Like write them down, full detail, because you're embodying that. That is what you expect. Mm-hmm. And then we actually let it go. We have to let it go, because if you want to be fully present in your pregnancy, if you want to be able to be fully present for your birth, like yes, of course, there's like ways that we can prepare ourselves with classes in education, but the unrealistic expectations that you have control over this are not going to support you. And being able to make thoughtful, educated, and informed decisions as things move forward is going to support you. And that entire journey requires that of us. And because of bounce back culture, and I'm going to say social and fit moms and pregnancies and all of this, that's what we're looking at. And that's what we're seeing. Or like, think of pregnant models you see in all of these magazines wearing these clothes. Like, I didn't look like that. I tried on so many different, like, not, I'm not 5'9", I'm 5'3". Like, so I think it's important to come back to this idea that you said we're all very different. Like, your lived experience is valid and real, but we need to take this from your lens and not from that of everyone around you, just because that's what they think happens or that's what happened to them. Going to be your own experience. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about the bounce back culture a little bit more in regards to, I also too, I mean, I know you're a huge advocate for breastfeeding, and I want you to kind of share why, but I also want you to, I'm sure you also work with people that maybe have trouble breastfeeding or can't produce, or also maybe they just made that choice not to, but so do you want to talk about breastfeeding, lactation a little bit, and then also kind of just to speak on this idea that I need to lose weight as fast as possible and bounce back as fast as possible, and I'm also breastfeeding my child, and just how contradictory that can be?
Sure. I mean, I feel like one of the problems with it is that breastfeeding is also associated with weight loss. Like, there's people who say, well, if you breastfeed, you're going to lose more weight. And that needs to be, because if you're breastfeeding, as expressed earlier, you're going to hold on to more of your fat.
But also, like, and the reason why they say that it's because your body is burning more calories to help produce the milk, but those calories should be consumed to be able to produce the milk. So it shouldn't be like you're not trying to be in a deficit so that you can. That's not how that works.
Yes, if you want to exercise and you want to train through your pregnancy, and when you are like cleared and ready to start your postpartum training journey, I'm in. Let's do it. I want you to see a pelvic floor PT. I know a lot of them. And I also need you to fuel. Like, we are fueling to support all of that. And that is more like structural in nature. We need to work on it. But in the context of lactation specifically, I'm going to say lactation, but then also general postpartum, we are as women, as birthing people, at risk for low energy availability and relative energy deficiency in sport. So for anyone not familiar, relative energy deficiency in sport is the overarching updated version of the female athlete triad, which only had 3 categorizing criteria in terms of not having a period, having disordered eating behavior, maybe having fractures or something along these lines. Whereas relative energy deficiency in sport includes every process, endocrine. It includes our digestion, because if we're not eating enough to support our body's needs, our digestion is going to slow down because we're going to try and absorb all the nutrients we can, which means it has to slow down to be able to do that. You might have bloating, constipation. It includes our cardiovascular health. Not if you're lactating, but in another state of amenorrhea, if you are not getting a regular period, we have no estrogen that is protective against atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease. So REDS includes the collective nature of our health and biomarkers. We are at risk for that. Our body is working on overdrive to support us now past this 9-month period into however long you choose to breastfeed. And so you need to eat to support that. We need to not even just eat, but very much nourish to support that. Some of the things that I've seen within the context of lactation, and you'll appreciate this, Tom, but I'm very seriously considering pursuing my lactation consultant license.
You should totally do
that. I am an advocate here, but one of the bigger issues I see that I genuinely feel like would be solved for us if you want to lactate is not trying to cut your calories right away. It is worth going slow. You are not in a rush. You need to heal.
Yeah.
Even if we were to work on a weight loss journey, which if that is something that is required and all of the reasons are like of benefit to you emotionally, mentally, versus something that is driven by diet culture and all of these other things, that early window is not the time to just start slashing. And it would be done gradually, intentionally, probably more with like gentle movement over restricting your dietary intake.
Yeah.
You do it too fast and you aren't going to heal as quickly as you would otherwise. Your energy already is going to be very poor because you have a newborn baby. And in case you didn't know, they don't sleep through that. There are things that are
every night. My cousin just had a baby. I was like, how are you going? He's like, he's sweet, but definitely nocturnal.
It's wild. You run on adrenaline for a while and then eventually you just crash and you're like, oh gosh, I'm just beat. So he just went through his 18-month sleep regression and like has been waking up again at night. And I was like, oh no, we are not doing this again.
No. The little Tig. Come visit me in New York. I'll watch him for a little bit. Well, I'll stay up with him just because I don't have to do it all the time.
It's the best. But yeah, you are at risk for these other factors that will harm your body in other ways. Like digestion is such a big one that gets looped into nutrition for obvious reasons. But the other ones are a little bit more silent, like your cardiovascular disease, and you need to keep an eye on it. So yeah, nourishment is important, and we are all already at a higher risk in that time frame. So.
Okay, so I feel like we talked very kind of general, but great work, a lot of like mindset shifts and stuff like that. Thinking back to either current clients or maybe even things you wish you were told yourself, maybe like, let's give some people some like tangible things that they can do. Let's maybe talk postpartum, like, because pregnancy can be so nuanced and there's just so many things that could be potential, but like postpartum, what are maybe some action steps that someone can engage in that's going to either help with their energy or help with their nutrition, whether it be a certain habit or a certain food or a certain expectation, but something that they can implement even today, maybe while listening to this?
Sure. So postpartum is forever, everybody. So I know that we think of postpartum as being this like 6-week or within the first year window, but like you are forever postpartum. You have given life to a beautiful little human that you feel responsible for. So that never goes away. But if we're breaking this down into those early days, the first 6-week period in particular, where you don't have a lot of support, just medically and otherwise, my hope is you have people you can lean on, like a best friend, to say, hey, can you come over so I can sleep? Or can you come over and help me meal prep? Or can you do that for me while I sleep? Like, please feel comfortable asking for help from your people. That's huge. Your people want to support you. They are your people. So one of the things that I do for clients right away, like leading into that, is I set up a meal train for them so people can drop off like dinner a couple times a week. And maybe it's like a tray of lasagna. It could be, again, like a chicken and rice or like some type of veggie. My Colombian side always gravitates to rice. But if you have that done for you, you don't have to think about it at all. We'll also do like prep work, or again, have someone else do prep work, or order things that can be frozen so you have food. So it's one less thing you need to worry about. You have to have food ready to be able to eat. So that's key. Please make sure you're hydrating. So if you don't have one, get some type of water bottle, fill it 3-4 times a day. Consider adding electrolytes. You'll feel better if you do that. Sodium, potassium, magnesium. It's easier to drink because it tastes like something, but that will actually give you more energy.
Yes.
Know that it's okay to...
Any tablets? People are going to ask. I know it. So any hydration packets or tablets that you suggest?
Liquid IV is good. Pedialyte Advanced is good. And they're all packets. I don't like Noon. There's actually just not enough. Like there's not enough of each of your electrolytes. I think they have one that's like a noon recovery that is like.
Could you double up? I'm just asking because the Ivy, I do not like the flavor. I don't know. I just like cannot tolerate it. So I was like, ooh, the Pedialyte one sounds good.
Pedialyte's probably my favorite. It's the most expensive. So I'm definitely
annoying. But yeah, I would probably double up on noon.
Yeah, double up on a noon. LMNT is another good one that people like. So any of those would be okay. And they're all in packets. So they're easy to like throw in a bag. So you always have. They're not exactly as eco-friendly as I might like, but you can always have them with you. And the other thing is like, please see a pelvic floor physical therapist, just knowing the nature of, again, athlete, more movement-based populations. Do not try and start doing things without being assessed. You can do more harm than good. And as I expressed earlier, you can step into motherhood and maintain your athlete identity and like push the bar. That time will come. It is probably not going to be in those first 6 weeks. So mental preparation, that things are going to take time. There's your mental piece. Like give yourself permission to rest and heal. But 100% see a pelvic floor physical therapist because you might have adjusted like the way you stand, your posture, your hips, your alignment, and not realized it. And then now, as especially early postpartum, it's a very bizarre feeling because you give birth, you've had this baby inside of you, and you know everything is separated. You have this, it's just empty. It's a really weird feeling to just feel actually empty. That's where a lot of like the 360 breath work comes into play that you can look up, that you can start to do while you're pregnant. I love it because not only does it reconnect you with your body and your pelvic floor, it's also really good to bring you down and support your parasympathetic nervous system. So many of us spend our state in sympathetic overdrive where we're like, we're going and we're talking in half breath and like, that's how most of us spend our time. We need to spend more time like this. Doing that type of breath work brings you down. So those would be my big things. Utilize your circle, have some sort of meal train, have food that is prepared that you can go to, or when you do your baby shower, ask for, like, have a list. These are the things I do for my clients. Like we have a list of all their go-to restaurants and places they order from. So people can do that for you. But it's helpful.
That's not a bad idea for a baby shower. Instead of like all of these gift cards to things like Bed Bath & Beyond and Target and the baby one. What is it? Not Bed Bath & Beyond.
Baby, Bye Bye Baby.
Bye Bye Baby. Yeah, they're always, it's like Bye Bye Baby, Target, blah, blah, blah. But like a gift card to like a food place that you frequent would probably be like way better, or even like a ShopRite or whatever local grocery store or something like that. Like that probably should be on more baby shower things.
I feel like we had a note, I'm going to mention it, was Be Her Village. So there's...
Yeah, that was my last question. Oh my God. You can do this yourself. You don't even need me as a host.
It's just the perfect segue. For those of you who have not heard of them, please look up Be Her Village. They are a registry for mothers. So if we think about typical baby registries, they have all of the things you just said, like they're for the baby. Be Her Village. They're
for the mother, or they're for the mother and not the baby. Wow.
Mother. So it's a registry of practitioners. So like my services are on there. So you could look up nutrition like Sulaver. I would pop up and your family or people could go in to purchase you a package with me.
Oh my God.
They can put in to buy you a doula. Like, so they have birth workers. So doulas, it's doulas. I think there might be one other dietitian there, but obviously you're going to see me, right? Lactation.
Silly if you didn't. She does everything virtual, so you'd be silly if you didn't.
But yeah, doulas, lactation consultants. It's actually like a birth workers page essentially, and we're all over the country, and so they have listed like if the services are in person or if they're virtual. And yeah, that's how you can. That's what we're going to do for my sister. I already told her, I was like, I am getting you a postpartum doula. Like, of course, I'm going to get something for my my nephew. She's having a boy. But there's nothing to talk about on the backside of this. But
oh my God, it's to be a boy.
Another boy. But yes, we spend so much money on things that we don't need. And even my registry, I had a good friend of mine give me her thing because I was not going to research every product. The only thing we researched was the run stroller priorities. But there were so many things I got that I returned because there were just too much of them. You didn't need them. And what I know I really would have benefited from was some sort of other like mental health.
Yeah, that's such a great idea.
Mm-hmm. So
we got to start thinking more about mom.
The caregivers. Yeah.
It's like wild.
Mm-hmm. So
wow, I love that. Okay, well, other than Be Her Village, if people just want to reach out to you directly, where would they go? How can they follow you on social?
Sure. Nutritionbymel.com is me. My site is actually being worked on and it's going to be updated in 6 weeks. It's going to be so great.
Amazing.
Nutrition by Mel on social. I would be Instagram and Facebook. You will not find me on Twitter. I cannot handle another social media.
No TikTok.
No TikTok. Nope. Or you can email me at mbomer.nutrition.
Oh, so you haven't changed your...
Nope, haven't changed it. It's going to be...
It's so funny. That's what spit out in the beginning. But I'm just, I've known you for 15 years.
That's wild. No, it's going to be Mel at nutritionbymel.com. But that one's not... We have a month or so before that. That'll be... Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'll put all that in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to add or share before we wrap up today?
My love note is just please don't be afraid to ask for help and get the support you need. Like I said, I know it's not normalized, particularly in nutrition. No one's like, you're having a baby or you're thinking about having a baby, dial in your nutrition or get some support on your nutrition or go see a perinatal therapist. But your mental health is incredibly important and you're going to go through so much throughout the course of that journey. You are worthy of that. Nutrition is no different, the same thing. And like I said, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health, pelvic floor, nutrition. I work with so many scattered kind of like across the country, different practitioners, and we work together and we do workshops together because they're all important and you are worthy of them. So
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Mel. You're amazing. I'm so glad that you were here. For those of you listening, if you're not following Mel on social, definitely go and do that. And if you are not subscribed to the podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe.
I say when a new episode comes out every whatever, but I don't even, we're not doing consistent anymore, which is fine. I'm rolling with it. I used to be a consistent podcast host, like weekly, twice a week, 3 times a week. I'm just whatever comes to me is coming out. So
living.
Sorry, we don't have a schedule anymore. I have to take care of my mental health. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But we do come out with episodes regularly. And so thank you for being here. If you're a long time listener, appreciate you. If you're a new time listener, hope to have you in the next episode. Thanks so much. As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.